Welcome to Future People, conversations with the change makers, impact makers, and the future shapers. Future People is a bold, future-focused podcast hosted by myself, Dan Musa, founder of Third Way Advisory. Join me for unfiltered conversations with the leaders who are rethinking value, legacy, and indeed their own leadership in a world that's being rebuilt, from our cities to our climate and our culture. These conversations are not to be missed. Well, welcome back to Future People. Today's guest is the legend that is Sascha Kurz, founder and managing director of Infrastructure Project Solutions. Sascha is a civil engineer who spent more than 25 years delivering complex infrastructure projects across Australia, working on both sides of the table for contractors, consultants, governments and utilities before deciding to build something all of your own. She founded IPS around 2019 and grew into one of the most respected specialist consultancies in the water and infrastructure space, a team of over 30 professionals, I'm sure that's out of date now, delivering on some of the most challenging projects in the country, from dam safety and flood resilience through to remote community water systems. In 2024, you were named Queensland Professional Engineer of the Year. The judges said that you turn ideas into actions, and anyone who knows you would probably say that's underselling it a bit. And of course, more recently, IPS merged into the Sacha Group, a PE-backed platform now spanning around 200 professionals across water advisory. I think for me, you've always been sort of an inspirational leader to follow. You're sort of a beacon of light for the industry, and I've got so many questions to ask you about your journey and about your thoughts on leadership. So thanks so much for coming on. How are you? Thanks for fitting us in, because I know it's chaotic. Your life is chaotic.
No, thanks for having me, Dan. And no, it's good to be able to sit across from you again.
Legend. So wind back the clock. How did it all start? Why engineering? What made you follow that route? And I guess at the time you entered, to a degree, a male-dominated industry as well, right? Difficult to find your feet in that in the early days, perhaps.
Yeah. Well, back when I was at school, there wasn't the STEM structure and education that there is now. So I didn't even know what engineering was when I was at school. So I was progressing a career in medicine. So I went to UQ to do science and then do med postgrad. And I was at college there, and I ran into some of the guys, as you said, and found out they were studying engineering. We were in similar classes. And after my first year of science, I changed to engineering because it felt more my jam. So it wasn't this well thought out plan that I had from early in high school. It just kind of came about. But again, it's just the education wasn't there in high school like it is now. So I'm really passionate about the STEM education. But yeah, just fell into engineering. I guess basic love for maths and physics, but also seeing things turn into reality. The really tangibility of what we do as engineers excites me, and it's an ever-changing world.
While we're on that point, you mentioned the sort of change in STEM and the opportunity now. Just how different is that? And is there still a lot of work to be done?
Oh, look, it's come leaps and bounds. Yes, there's still work to be done. The percentages of, females in engineering is still less than 50%. But I would say when I went through, we had a cohort of about 100 and we might have had 10, 15% women, and that number's much higher now. I think the work that we need to still do is we seem to be able to attract females into engineering, but it's keeping them in the industry, especially in construction, through, the life stages of a woman, like having kids. Sometimes it's hard to, have the break, have the kids, and then get back into meaningful work and have it not stall your career, so to speak. So I think that's where we need to do a bit more work as an industry.
It's really important to look at, I think, the building blocks that got you to that point. And it just almost take me back to that first, graduate new position as a young engineer, presumably the only female on site. Was it difficult? Did you take it to a duck to water? Was there anyone early on in that career who you kind of latched onto as a mentor and a guide who's kind of significantly had an impact, do you think, in your early stage of your career?
Yeah, well, you're right. I was the only female engineer on site. I was on a construction site out at Springfield building the first University of Southern Queensland campus. So it was interesting. One of the first days I went out on site, one of the steel fixers said, what's the receptionist doing out here? So
that's so old school, isn't it?
But, you just have to, be water for ducks back with some things. And I just literally jumped in boots first into learning construction and, with that individual, even becoming friends by the end of the project, because I just wanted to learn from him to, I guess, help improve my job and understand, I guess, constructability and various things like that. So I would say I've been fortunate in my career. There's only literally a handful of times that I could count where being a female has really been difficult in the industry. Not everyone's as fortunate as me. I grew up in a family of 5 with 3 brothers, so I think I have a bit of a thick skin, so I just push through with that construction industry. But yeah, there definitely is times and challenges. I think for me, the biggest challenges was when I was going through my later engineering years, going into management. That's probably where I felt most held back being a woman, getting into those real leadership roles rather than on-site interactions where someone's derogatory. That didn't really happen much. It was more, I guess, the older men in the construction companies, actually seeing me as a leader. And I left 2 companies because of that reason. I didn't, get the opportunity that I thought I deserved to move up into a more senior role.
And that was just a case of you're just getting continually sort of like overlooked, or not even the opportunities weren't even coming your way. It was just a sort of pure
and
day
both
judgment.
of these companies, I was there. The first one I was there for 8 years, and the second one for 7 years. So it's not like I wasn't
like
there.
long
And
tenure.
whether it's male or female, when you're overlooked and they bring someone in to do the role that you thought you deserved, and that person, in your opinion, doesn't do the role justice,
Yeah.
that's quite frustrating to see. But yeah, apart from that, I think for me, I've always tried to see the positives of being a female in the industry because you bring a different perspective. There's probably not as much ego or aggression or, I'm not saying that, every male's like that, but
There's a lot of them.
in construction, you do get that. So being a female, you get to come in and I guess use a different way of communicating and dealing with people that for me yielded fantastic results, and I actually think benefited my career rather than hindered it.
It's a really funny dynamic because it obviously exists, but I don't know if it's because in my own career, my first 2 managers or leaders were female. I've just never seen it as a thing,
Yeah.
right? I've just always had really good female leaders. I've never thought of like, I don't know, it's funny how, is it, maybe that's because it's a personal experience, but like you said, there still seems to be sort of this perception of leaders were traditionally.
It's the industry, right?
Yeah.
It's, and the industry is changing. I didn't have my first female leader until 2020.
Right.
And I started my career in 2002. So
Yeah.
18 years before having a female leader. And that was life-changing for me. She's still my mentor and one of my best friends, and recently was at my wedding. So things are changing. I work with a government department, and it's lovely. Like pretty much 80% of the people that I deal with are females. And again, like I love working with men, don't get me wrong, but it's refreshing sometimes to have a mix, a good balanced mix.
I think no one ever speaks about it, but like females are definitely better at getting shit done. But
That's our motto, get shit done.
But it's true though. Like, I think it's because just better at getting stuff done.
Oh, look, I have a lot of fantastic guys that work with us that are very good at getting shit done as well. I don't think it's a gender bias thing. I think it's a personality. And I just think balance is all we need. We're not, I'm definitely not flying a flag to say let's have a unbalanced industry. It's just trying to get more balance. I think the industry standard at the moment is 14% of around about then 14% of women in engineering. So if we can get that up to 25, 30, that's getting closer to where we should be.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned there, overlooked a couple of times. You left some long tenure position. Like, what was the turning point? Who was the person who gave you the opportunity, or what was the turning point in your sort of step up to management and the fun and games of that process sort of starting?
I think I gave myself the opportunity. My dad said to me when I was younger, do your time. Do your time before you chase the roles or, the money or whatever. And I really felt like I'd done my time in each of those scenarios. So I had the confidence that I had the ability to do the next level up. So it was really hard leaving the first company because I was a grad engineer there. My blood was green with that company at the time, but I moved because I felt that the senior management was probably still seeing me as a grad engineer and probably seeing me as a female grad engineer. So I just took the opportunity, and you would know in your business sometimes a change is the best way to move up a level. So that's what I did. And then just, I guess, walked the walk and got that opportunity and proved that I could do the role and went from there.
I think there's something really important in there, and almost said like you almost allowed yourself to, accept the opportunity, right, and be ready for it. And I think there's something probably really important in that. And looking at people now that you perhaps mentor or you're developing their own careers, do you think is that a common trait you've seen? People don't back themselves enough or aren't willing to open themselves up, and actually people can be quick to blame everything else, or not blame, but look at other educators around them actually saying that you're not actually allowing yourself the opportunity and really backing yourself.
Yeah, and that's really true. And part of, I guess, the mentoring and what we're trying to do with IPS is give people the opportunity to try something different or the next level, but really be there with a safety safety net. So, they can try, but you don't let them fall. And I think that's the difference from when I was in construction. That wasn't there.
It's just in a deep end and sink or
Yeah,
swim.
exactly right. So one of the, key ethoses of IPS has been a place for people to grow and learn and try things. And, we've had people join as project engineers that are now project managers or even above in a period of 2 or 3 years just because they've proven themselves and they've been given the opportunity. So I'm very much, again, I do believe that you have to have the experience, but the number of years is different depending on the person. So I think when I went through in construction, it was always set, after 5 years, you're a project engineer. After 10 years, you're this. After 15 years, I'm going to be dead before I'm managing director. And
it's an
that
impossible. It's an impossible.
So it's just trying to break down those boundaries a little bit, and I guess have individual leadership plans for each person because everybody's different.
Yeah, and we're going to get into that because I think it's something you do so well. Yeah, I think you're amazing at identifying talent and other people don't see, and I think that's probably been success to building your business. So we'll jump into that. Like, talk about IPS. Like, what drove you to found the business? Like, did you found it and always have plans to grow, or did it just happen? So
originally I got the ABN in the business name, as you mentioned at the start, back in 2019. But that was literally when I was just going out as an independent contractor. And I thought, I've got to have a name, I've got to have a website, and I've got to have a business card, which in hindsight is probably not that important. It's really about working out what your service offering is. So I just did that for a few years, and through the pandemic, worked with SEQ Water. Then it was in 2022. I had a great 2-year tenure with SEQ Water, but I just felt that I wanted to really give it a crack as a consulting business rather than just like just me and a couple of people. And that was a massive decision because, I was going from a salary that provided for my family to basically nothing guaranteed. So it was a big leap of faith, and I got a big carrot put in front of me by a construction company just when I was about to launch IPS Consulting, and full-time role. And it was a great opportunity, and it really tested, do you really want to do this? And ultimately, my decision was yes. So we started off, I got one contract with a client that gave me the confidence to hire my first person, who contacted me through LinkedIn. He is still with me. I call him my number one.
Who's that?
Mo.
Yeah, Mo.
Yeah. So Mo had been in Australia for about 9 years as an engineer, but working mostly in research at universities and things like that, and really wanted an opportunity in construction and engineering. So he reached out to me on LinkedIn, and I really do always try and get back to people that are genuinely looking for opportunities. And we had a coffee, and at that time I said, "Oh, would you take part-time work?" And he said yes. And the week later it was full-time. And I think it's like a couple of weeks is our 4-year anniversary that he's been with me. So then, I guess to answer your question holistically, no, I never had a plan. I never had a strategic plan from day one that said, okay, by year 1, I want to have 5 people, year 2, 10 people. It was just very organic, and I guess really driven by the underlying desire to provide really quality service to our clients without pre-prescribing the size of the business or what that would look like. And I think that organic growth has led to us getting genuine people in the business that really care, and we're fortunate enough that we have grown. So I think, the number's about 40 now in 4 years.
Every time I see you, like every 6 months up, we've moved office, we've got a bigger office. I'm like, I can't keep up. I'm like following you around town trying to work out where you are.
Yeah, so I mean, it's literally now is this financial year is the first financial year that we've had a strategic plan. It's the first financial year that we've actually had a proper budget. So we've kind of faked it till we've made it for quite a while. And you have to get a certain revenue before you can get your overheads in terms of ops and finance management and all of that, and even comms and stakeholder and all that kind of stuff. But I actually made that decision really early. So when we were only about 7 or 8 people, I started to hire those overheads. So invested in the business early, and I think that's been beneficial rather than waiting, and running on an oily rag until you're, 20 or 30 people. We did
and
it
then
early.
trying to fix it.
Exactly. So, and it goes back to we always wanted a quality product for our clients, and I guess I just found getting those great people in early has made a big difference.
Do you think not having almost like the figure to make it sort of a fly-by seat your parents' degree, like not the plan of we want to be year 1, year 2, year 3, do you think that actually worked in your favour? Because you're just kind of like, we'll just go for it. We'll just deliver great work and we'll kind of see what
happens. Absolutely.
Love that. Yeah. It's refreshing.
And me, like I'll have a coffee with someone and hire them that day. It's just, that's been the exciting and the lovely part of the journey, that we have just seen how it would progress and not having really any expectations on what it should look like.
Yeah. One of the things I remember when I first met you and I came in and sort of tried to pitch you some really average recruitment was, I think just your presence and your personality and your energy was like, it's like it's attractive. Like I'm like, oh, like you want to be part of that energy. But I distinctly remember we're having a coffee. You spoke about the triangle, like your golden triangle.
Oh, yeah.
And I know you kind of, that's still like the basis of the business today.
Yeah.
Like maybe just talk for that, because it's kind of, when you see it on paper, it's kind of really simple, but it's incredibly valuable and incredibly important as well.
Well, that must have been after you slid into my DMs with your video message.
That was right, yeah,
Or
yeah.
your audio message.
Well, I actually think I got Tim, our old school friend Tim, to do introduction as well. I was just trying all angles, just trying to get a meeting.
Well, it worked. Yeah, look, again, the golden triangle, and we just made up a name like everything we do. But it's always been underpinned what we do and who we do it for. So the basic principle is the 3 points of the triangle. One's the client, one's the work that's required, and the third point is the resource available. So we start with the client and, test. We culturally align with the client, do the services that they deliver fit in with what we offer. Early in IPS days, 22, definitely back in 2019 and those years, I'd kind of try everything, whether it was rail, roads, whatever. And in 2022, we really had that water and complex infrastructure focus. So firstly, work out the client. Are they, doing work in the same space as us, and are we culturally aligned with them, as in we'd like to work for them? So we've got to tick that box first. And the second point of the triangle,
and that must take some discipline, right? Because you've
does. Like, I've quit clients.
Yeah, because you want to, in that early stage, you want to revenue, you want to win work, but you've got to be strong about.
You have to, and I learnt that early. And there have been a handful of clients that we've quit or said no to because of the cultural alignment. And it is hard because you do want the revenue, but you also have a soul and things. So once the first point of the triangle is ticked, we go the second and go, okay, well, we know that we're culturally aligned. We know that what you provide or what you're after is within our sweet spot in terms of service offering. But then we go, what in particular do you need? Because engineering and construction's vast and we're not experts at everything. So we have to understand the scope of works. And again, can we hand on heart say that we would add value if we delivered that scope? So tick that box. And then we go to the third, and this is probably the most important for you in your industry, is do we have the right people available to do that work? And you have to tick all three. Otherwise, we don't say yes, because if one of those isn't ticked, we're not going to really be our best selves and give the best offering to our client. And yes, we might get more revenue, but it'll catch up. We'll put the wrong person in the wrong job and it'll impact our reputation, or we'll sell ourselves to the devil for revenue and that'll impact our soul. So it is simple, but we try and think about that when we pursue opportunities with clients.
It's just so effective, and it's something like I've kind of really learned for myself. And I look at, my business now in Fairway, and like, we're pretty clear, like, we only work with like founder only led organizations. Like, we only work on stuff we can add value. Like, if we can't do a job, we won't do it. My own kind of form of a golden triangle, but I guess, like, credit to you, I took that from you. It was just, it had such an impact on me when I walked away from that first meeting. It made perfect sense. I think maybe a lesson for other founders and owners is, if you don't have that, then look at having those sort of it's almost that value alignment across those three pivots, right?
Yeah.
One thing you've always done exceptionally well is that the right people piece. Just want to talk about that, because it's almost a talent, or I think a gift you have, is you kind of are able to see potential and talent and skill in other people, in people I think a lot of other people don't bypass. I also want to touch on, you've got this innate ability to recognize that people need opportunity. And I think there's probably many stories in your organization that potentially, like, fairly new immigrants to Australia, and we know what it's like. People come into, to Australia and they get battered away with, like, you don't have any local experience, and it's a load of nonsense. But you've got so many success stories, I think, in your organizations around people you've given an opportunity, who have paid it off tenfold. They're incredible engineers, incredible professionals. Like, where's that come from? Something's been instilled in you, something that, like, you reflect on your own journey and been overlooked for opportunity. Like, what's driven that? Because I think that skill you've got, or that piece there, has been, like, so vital to the success of your business from the outside looking in.
I think there's probably two moments in my actually back at university, that probably shaped the whole, I guess, respect for the immigrant engineers or immigrant professionals. So I was at college at University of Queensland, and a family worked for the college. They were from overseas. The gardener was a doctor in his original country, and he was working as a gardener here in Australia. And I just I mean, I love gardening,
but it's mind-blowing,
but
isn't
it's just mind-blowing. And then I had an experience back in the day when you went in cabs and you had a few too many drinks in the valley and you had a good old chat with the cabbie on the way back. And similar story, was speaking to someone from India, and he was an engineer in India driving cabs here. And I actually gave him my email address and said, I want to try and help you. And long story short, I did, and I helped him get his first engineering job in Australia. And I think that just stayed with me. So I think it was more about, from the immigrant piece, it wasn't so much about my own experience of being overlooked. It was more, as you said, the whole mentality of, oh, you can't get a job in Australia because you don't have Australian experience. Like it's diabolical. Like someone's got to give, an opportunity. So I think that's where we get these just absolute golden eggs of engineers that I think in the traditional recruitment process get overlooked.
Yeah.
And then we give them that experience. And what I say to them is, once you have that experience, once it's on your CV, nobody can take it off you. So there's no expectation from IPS that we have people for life. Like, industry's different now. Tenure used to be a lot longer. So we really go by the motto of, we want to give to our employees the same or more as we expect them to give to us as a business. It's not a one-way street. So we like to give the opportunities. And then if they've, then got that experience on that CV and they want to try, spread their wings elsewhere, then, we're always happy to let them fly and, have the door open if they want to come back. So
such a good attitude I wish more people would have. Because I always say to, you speak to owners, like, people get really upset when their staff leave, or they, for a bigger role, or they leave to go and start their own business. I actually, in many ways, I think that's a compliment to your own leadership.
Yeah, look, you've got to...
It can be.
Yeah, you do take things personally when people leave, no doubt. But I think if you build a culture where, you can communicate and understand why those people are leaving them and the reasons, then, if you've created a great culture, then it should be a positive experience, even if you're sad that they're leaving. Yeah, so it's a little bit difficult because you have your personal feelings, but we always hope that, as I said, that the door's open if people want to fly back in, you know. And you do want to, as a young engineer, you do want to try different things, and we do offer that within our business. But some people want something that's not within our service offering. And, who you helped me hire way back in the day worked for me for a couple of years, and he was absolutely brilliant and more in a consulting side, client side in his roles with me. And then after that experience, he said, you know what, I just really love construction. I want to be back in construction. And he left and went and worked for a small construction company. And that was a completely fantastic farewell. And, so, yeah.
Yeah, it's just that the work you do around, I think, for me, it's almost like it's been a superpower, I think, for the business, because the people you've been able to bring in. And I kind of like always smile when I see you hiring people, because I'm like, you've obviously like got, again, like another gold nugget, and they've obviously been overlooked by other people. And I'm like, 1-0 Sascha, 2-0 Sascha, 3-0 Sascha. It's just so good to see. Again, I'm not involved in your business, but anyone, who's from the outside looking in, like you look at pictures, stories, your own staff members, and there's clearly an incredible culture and an incredible sort of set of values within that business. And it's visible across, not just from you, across the group. And obviously that helps you attract people. I'm sure people want to come and work with you. But how easy was it to build that culture and equally like maintain it? Because I think everyone strives for a culture and everyone strives for values, but there's a difference between sort of striving for it, creating it, and then living it. And I think you guys have managed to create it, build it, and continue to live it. Like, people from the outside, like, it's not easy. Like, how hard's that been to do, or not?
I think it goes back to a few things. The thing I love about culture is there's no hierarchy to culture. To have good culture, it's got to be at all levels.
Yeah.
So it comes back to the people.
Yeah.
And like you said, the people you hire. And when I hire people, I've perused their CV and I kind of put it to the side going, I know technically they can do the role, and it's more about having a coffee and understanding them and how they operate and how I think that they would fit within our business. And that's everything. So I guess the selectiveness of our recruitment and resourcing and who we brought into the team has just helped build that culture. So it's not sitting with one person, but I think just everyone brings different things to the table in our business, and we're able to keep that culture alive. It does get harder as you get bigger. With 40 people now, and obviously with the merger with Sequana, and so that's a big focus. How do you maintain that culture as you scale? We're 40 now, part of a group that's 250. How do we maintain that? So that's a work in progress.
Yeah.
So we're actually all going out for a beverage after work today just to catch up, because it's been a while. But that we'll probably have a chat in a year's time, and I'll be able to tell you about how we navigated that. But the culture and people liking and loving working at IPS is the most important thing to me. And that, sorry for your industry, has meant that we've got a lot of referrals from people that work for us.
Which
and
is great, but I prefer that.
Friends in,
Sorry to interrupt this episode. Just a quick shout out to our sponsor, Thirdway Advisory, a talent partner for projects that shape our future. Thirdway helps visionary organizations in real estate development, critical infrastructure, and mega projects find leaders who deliver and stay. With 20 years of global experience, Thirdway go beyond filling roles. They are all about purpose beyond placement. Now, let's get back to the episode. It's funny you say about ministry. Like, I mean, I'd rather partner with an organisation that has that because, like, the kind of hard work's done, right? It's not where it's like, well, so we have to go to market and this is a pretty difficult sell and we're going to have to think about how we do it. I think it's amazing. So don't be sorry to my industry. Half my industry is dreadful anyway. I've a different job. Obviously, I founded a business previously and was involved in it for 2.5 years and we scaled relatively quickly. It's at times it's really not easy and there's sleepless nights and, I certainly had days when we sort of questioned why you're doing it. And I think every founder does. What's been the toughest part of it, or like the hardest lessons that have kind of probably helped shape you as the kind of leader you still are and becoming? But what's been, because it's not all sort of cupcakes and rainbows, and I think it's really important to sort of be open about that.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I mean, as you start, it's like the financial stress. I didn't loan any money to start the business, so it just started on $0.
Yeah.
I learned very quickly about cash flow. I had some personal savings. So in the first iteration of IPS, I didn't really mind when clients paid me because I'd have some personal savings so I could pay my people. But then I did renos on my house.
Yeah.
And that savings pool went to zero. So I very quickly realized that I had to get the money in that had to go out that same month. So all of a sudden the concentration on cash flow was very much prominent. So that was a big lesson learned. I got to 1 month in the new version of IPS where I thought we were going to be in the red. So I got a 50 grand overdraft on the account at that time, and it's still there 4 years later. I've never touched it. But it just got just close. But you just learn from that again, and making sure your contracts are clear in terms of payments and be organised from your end, that you get all the information. And one of the clients that we did quit just failed to pay us on time for 3 years. So we just, just said enough. So learn through that. I think the biggest thing is when you're in a situation where either your culture or your professionalism or your service offering might be questioned. If you put the wrong person in the role or, it's a little mishap, that I take extremely personally because we want to have, best in business service. So again, that really teaches you, and, as a startup business and a business owner, you can get in the trap of, let's get, more people because the client wants more people, it's more revenue, it's more money. And it just takes one that's not at your level that can bring down the reputation. So I probably learnt that on a few times early on, hiring people because the need was there from a client and probably not really following that golden triangle principle. So that's been tough. And I guess from a personal point of view, because I was the sole director, as we got bigger, when we merged with Sequana, we were around the 30 people. That's 30 people's families and livelihoods on my shoulders, and I've got my own family and my own stress. And I just thought to myself, what if I burn out? What if I, what happens then? And that was one of the big drivers, to partner with Sequana, is to, give the security to my team, give opportunity for further growth. But I guess just take some of that personal pressure off my shoulders because it was getting to a size that, the numbers were getting quite big. In terms of, money in, money out.
And you're sort of juggling around in zero, trying to work all out. One thing, it's interesting, the personal sacrifice, because I've had a few founders now across this table, and something that's come from others is people have said the hardest part of it all has been like losing friends along the way.
Oh, yeah.
Because your life maybe goes on a different trajectory in terms of like judge success, right? People will make judgments around your business from the outside, or you have to put more time into the business. Is that something that's you felt too, and like
100%.
Unfortunately, like you've lost people on the way, and it's not always been easy.
Yeah, so I mean, that's personally and professionally. Everyone wants to say their family's number one, and of course, in your heart, your family is one. But if you look at it from a time and focus perspective, it's been work, and it's been work for 4 years. So my kids were younger then; now they're 9 and 11, and they'll remember now. They'll remember when Mum's home. So again, that's one of the things with having the business, affording yourself that flexibility to be there more with them, and not just the more hours I build, the more money I make. So I came here from dropping my kids at school.
Yeah.
Which, in 17 years of construction, I never did.
Yeah.
But yeah, you definitely do lose people on the way. You become laser focused on work, and you don't really have much capacity outside of that. And I really found that I was fatigued on the weekends, and if I'd speak to my friends, I actually didn't have any capacity.
There was nothing in common. Like it's
Yeah,
hard, isn't it?
and just no kind of capacity for long conversations, which isn't fair to your friends. But that has been a byproduct.
I think there's something in that, and one of the things I want to do around this podcast is to get us to come on it. We create this lovely little community, because I think, because you made a point, like, as a founder building a business, like, you can't really talk to your partner sometimes about it, because they kind of don't get it. Your friends don't get it unless they're doing the same. So it can become pretty lonely.
Very lonely.
Like, with your own thoughts around the business, and you don't, like, where do you turn?
Yeah, it's exactly right. And again, that's with the founders of Sequana and how well I get on with them. That was one of the big things as well, is not being on my own.
Yeah.
And having that support and, people to bounce things off. So yeah, can be lonely.
So we jumped into the merger perfectly there. So you poured your heart, your soul, your energy into building an incredible business.
Yeah.
And then, you merged. Was that someone you looked for? Is the opportunity came knocking? Did the stars align? Like, is it?
Yeah, I wasn't looking. It just liked the business. I had a coffee with the CEO, and one thing led to another. That sounds like a
it was a coffee. It was breakfast time.
It was literally as simple as that. So I guess always in my head, I thought, at some point in the business, what are your options? Do you keep doing it yourself for 20 years? Do you bring in a partner? Do you, So I guess it wasn't out of my head that at some point I needed to make a change. I just hadn't thought about what that was or when that was. But it was I really felt like it was the perfect marriage. And it probably just came earlier than I expected. Like, I would have probably expected to get to 5, 7, maybe even 10 years with IPS and then, look to merge. But it was just like the golden triangle, the right culture, the right people, the right services, and in this case, the right time. And it just, everything felt right about it. And we're 9 months in now. It's not without its challenges, merging businesses. But in Brisbane, we've just merged floors, which has been really great. So we get that cultural energy together. But we did it because we have a real belief to be, I guess, the go-to water advisory, an infrastructure business here in Australia. And we're at a scale now that we can really be that and offer that. We've just started a UK office as well. So that's really exciting.
That's awesome,
So as much as you give away a bit of yourself, there's a lot of benefit. And I think for my team, that was obviously a big thing as well. You talked about culture. It was sold to me. I had to sell it to them that this was good for them as well. And, it's not going to be perfect for everybody, but, the offerings and the opportunity now as part of a bigger group are great for our people as well.
I'm glad you brought that up. So I think it was a whole other episode about going through a merger and the stresses of that and what you do. But two things I guess I want to ask is the sort of self-pressure of going through that process. And I'm sure, like, do you do it? Do you not do it? Is it the right decision? Is it a bad decision? The sort of mental turmoil, tough to navigate, and how do you navigate it?
I think you have to really work out what you're doing it for. And for me, I was going to burn out. Like, there was no two ways about it. If I kept on, because I don't have any, I've got zero.
Don't have an off switch.
I've got 0 or 100. Like, I'm either sleeping.
I don't think you've got 0, do you? You've just got 100.
Well, that's what I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
But I'm either sleeping or, so within the business, I was always at 100. So I knew that it was going to get to a point that something was going to give. And as I said, back with, family, I spent all of the years of my girls' early life working in construction away. So for me, one of the big drivers was being able to have, more security, more time with my kids, not have all that burden of everything on my shoulders. And as you said, be able to share it with other, founders and leaders within the business. So I think if you work out why you're doing it and you're comfortable with that, then the rest is kind of more the mechanics of it. Yeah. If it's all about money or it's all about status or it's all about this or that, that's not me.
That's not you.
And, we merged and I'm, a major shareholder in the group. And so I'm going nowhere.
Yeah.
So it's not a trade sale where all of a sudden there's, so I'm still in the office every day with the people. And I think that's important. And I don't know what, the future holds long term. We're doing some great planning at the moment, but, it's still business as usual at the IPS office.
Going through that merger, like, how was your leadership tested? Because from the point of view, you've got this amazing team who've all bought into you and the business and your vision and your values and your culture of culture you created. And suddenly you're like, hey guys, like, presumably that was a test of leadership like you've potentially never faced before?
Definitely. Yeah, there was, I went through it with my senior leadership team and, there was
Was there pushback?
it wasn't pushback, but there was concern like, what role am I going to have in the business and how's this going to impact me? And, I love the way we are now and all of those things. And it was the same things that I was feeling. So I guess just trying to, reassure people and, we've had this gradual change. It wasn't like day one, everything's different. We're still doing that transformation piece now and we're still trying to work out what the best fit is. But really with the senior leadership team, letting them know that I've got their back. And, the proof's been in the pudding in the 9 months that these are my untouchable, like we can get some efficiencies and shared services, but, IPS is built on these people buying in, like you said, and believing in myself and the business. So they have to be here and be respected and a big part of the future. So
when you're going through like intense periods like that, and I say your leadership's been tested because it is, and there's different tests of leadership, right? But that's a tough one in terms of you've got all these people who, like you said, are reliant on you. You kind of feel naturally you would the responsibility for them and their families, and you've got a merger, you've got people, you've got all these tests coming at you. Like, what's your coping mechanism? Because everyone's different. Like, some people go and sit in an ice bath, right? I don't know, but like, what's your tools or your mechanisms for getting through this like really tough moments of leadership where you're to a degree you're on your own? Like, leadership can be really, really lonely. Like, what's your process?
I probably don't have a single sentence to answer that.
It's not a single sentence answer, but what do you...
I think, sharing and being really transparent and really honest with the people that you trust in the process, because, ultimately I made a decision for me. I wanted to make sure that the downstream impacts on my team was positive. But ultimately, it was my decision that was made. So I need to be really honest with my team. And I have been about why I made that decision. So they knew that, like, it was the pressure, it was the burnout stage, understood, I guess, some of the main reasons, and also building this amazing group of businesses across Australia. But I'm definitely not perfect. And I have my times that I fly off about certain things. So I think, being honest when I make mistakes or I, misstep or snap too quickly about a situation and really be able to be open. I think that's probably the biggest mechanism. Probably back in the day, apologising or saying sorry when you don't think you did something wrong that, maybe you didn't do it. But I'm now at an age that I notice very quickly after the fact if I've done the wrong thing, and I really want to be able to communicate to the people, straight away. And I think that's built the trust and the culture. And I guess sharing not the burden, but sharing it with people you trust.
Well, it can be a burden. I think it's a burden, can be a burden on yourself, right?
Well, like I said, in 2022, I got my first female manager and she's my mentor to this date. So I'm having lunch with her next Tuesday and she's like my sounding board. So she will pick up when I'm stressed and, be able to give me a lot of good advice about, how to cope and navigate through things. But at the end of the day, I still try and think, don't take yourself too seriously.
Life's too short.
Yeah, exactly right.
Do you know what's coming through in that? I love having these conversations because you sort of get pattern recognition now against the really good founders and owners, and it's that level of self-awareness, right? Like being self-aware of what you've done, how you've acted, how you might need to act, and it comes through in spades. It's amazing just watching these conversations develop in this podcast, and two things that always come through are clarity and self-awareness.
Yeah.
Seem to be the thing that great leaders really possess in spades.
Yeah, there was a great one yesterday. I was in a meeting with all the general managers. We just hired a new general manager, asset management, Michael, who's absolutely amazing. Anyway, when I was having the coffee with Michael, which literally led to the job offer, and subsequently I said, I'm not a micromanager. You're here as a leader. You go and do your thing, touch base with me. But anyway, we're all in this GM's meeting and the guys are presenting about the business plan. And I kept on jumping in, and I joked. I joked to Michael. I said, "I told you I'm not a micromanager." And Toby, one of my other GMs, goes, "No, you're a micro criticizer."
Good feedback.
And it was and it's always about little things, not big things. It's like, who left a banana skin in the bin, or why is there the different color mints here? So I think that made me really self-aware that I'm not a micromanager, but I can be critical on little things. I learned that yesterday, and it makes sense. I said it to my partner at home, and she's like, "Yeah, that's exactly right."
That's our relationship.
Why is that in that spot? It should be there. So I think that's my next challenge is work out how to be less.
I think I've just realised that I'm a micro criticizer as well.
Yeah.
Actually, massively.
Yeah.
The name of this podcast is Future People. You've got this amazing 25, 30-year career, loads of leadership expertise. I think, again, what I see, Australian engineer of 2024, but I think you've actually used that platform really well to talk about the next generation of leaders, STEM, bringing more female engineers into the business, creating more opportunity. For me, we live in this sort of strange, scary time where the world's changing, I think, faster than it's ever changed before, in terms of we've always had challenge, but we've got AIs growing arms and legs like every single day, like it or not, it's here and it's progressing quickly. There's climate change, there's society's levels of sort of unrest and happiness it's never been at before, and you've got huge geopolitical tensions. How do you see leadership changing? Like, do you think the inherent skills of leadership have to change a little bit to take on the next sort of 5 to 10 years? And I sort of say at the point of view, if you're looking at your own position now and you thought, well, actually, I want to identify someone who in 5 years' time will be in my seat, for example, what traits do you think will be most important for that person to have and to develop to be able to take on this crazy little world where we're sort of charging into? Or do you think it's more of the same and just improving the leadership skills that people already have?
I think that you have born leaders, and then you have leaders that emerge and have the training and read the books and do the podcasts and self-skill up to a leader. So I think that'll always naturally happen. I think the biggest change...
There's a difference between, do you think a born leader is generally better than trained leaders, or do you think there can be...
Oh, I think both have benefits, definitely. But I think to answer your question, I don't think the core traits need to change. I think it's more the focus of what the key things in leadership are. So the skills are the same. It's just, say now, if I look at as a leader, these are the 8 key things I do. The 8 key things in 5 or 10 years will probably look very different. And there'll still be culture and leader, but they're, in terms of understanding, political climates, understanding, not just having a tick box for environmental sustainability and really bringing that into day-to-day practice. Like, I think that's going to be the big shift, because I'm still from, the construction days where we didn't monitor waste or emissions or anything.
Let's just get the thing built and
get the thing built. And so now I'm in this position where, that's not what I've been trained to do, but I understand the importance and the impact of, our future world in terms of climate change and all those things. But I probably don't have the skills as a leader to really be able to push that forward. So I think that's, what the next set of leaders, they need to be probably in our industry, potentially less technical in terms of engineering and more, worldly in terms of these bigger, more important social issues that are happening, and be able to weave that into what we do in construction and infrastructure.
Because I sort of it as like, you've got all these, there's a lot of doomsday stuff in the press now, right? But as leaders, in the next 6, 12 months, I think people are going to be knocking your door and being like, hey, like, well, am I going to get replaced by AI? Or like, what's the plan? I just think as a leader of any stage, but as a young leader coming through, like, how do you answer that question? There's so much unknown to work with now.
There is. I think AI will have an impact in our industry, but not as big as other industries.
Yeah, you're right.
Not like legal, for example.
Yeah.
You don't need a clerk anymore.
You literally don't.
So I don't think AI has really, from what I've seen, there hasn't been this massive shift yet. With construction, you still need hands to build things. You still need brains to design things. You still need a qualified person to sign off on certain things. So there'll be some efficiencies, definitely through technology. But if you look at the next 10 years of construction here in Southeast Queensland, we need technology to help us be more efficient, because we don't have enough bodies to do the work. So I don't see, I guess, fortunately in our industry, it's not as big a leadership issue about people being replaced. It's, that drive at how can we be more efficient and effective for our clients, which often are government, which you and I are taxpayers.
Yeah.
So if we can use technology to, decrease tax, then everyone's happy.
Amen. You've achieved so much, like incredible amounts today. Like, it's honestly, it's amazing. I'm so happy you've come on this podcast. I've always wanted to have you on. Like, for you, like, what's the motivators now into the future? Like, what's left to achieve? And some people like to talk about legacy, some people don't. Like, is there a legacy you'd like to leave behind when it's all said and done? Way down the line, not trying to retire. You've got a long way to go. But you know what I mean? Like, what you're building towards? What's the motivator for the next stage?
I don't feel important enough to have a legacy or a biography. That's not how I run. I just do me. What we've been able to achieve with IPS, and like you said, with giving the opportunities to not only the migrant engineers, but also, local engineers that want to change from construction to consulting or vice versa. I've already got it. Like, I already feel my cup's full in terms of really, going from a very specific technical engineer, building great jobs, seeing great things, working overseas, and now being a leader in a business and being able to give opportunity to people. That's my legacy. And so I don't have a 5-year or a 10-year plan. Like, if I got hit by a bus today, I'm happy. Like, really happy in the industry and happy with what it's given me and what I hopefully have, helped with other people. So that's it.
I don't think there's any more to say. Thank you for coming on. It's been awesome. Look, I just think as an industry, we're lucky to have you. As a city, we're lucky to have you. And I just think it's amazing the work you do, especially around creating opportunity for people and buying into people. It's awesome. So don't get hit by a bus. Please stay around, keep doing what you're doing, and love to get you back on again in the future and see how that merge has gone and some of the challenges there. But yeah, thank you so much, and it's been an absolute pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Cheers. Thanks for listening, and hope you enjoyed that episode of Future People. I've been your host, Daniel Musa, and this has been brought to you by Third Way Advisory. Please make sure you like, follow, share and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and I look forward to seeing you next week for another intellectual and engaging conversation.